and welcome to Political Quickie, your political show that subjectively discusses political headlines in South Africa and all around the world. My name is Mapasika Murwa. It seems that the DA wants to dissolve a parliament, and this is of course after that whole Penyuga Bempete situation. Yes, that situation. So the DA is like, you know what, actually let us start afresh, let's dissolve parliament and let's have a re-election where the people will decide who they want to govern. Opposition parties, other opposition parties saying that, you know what, no, actually we are not in the same vibe as you guys. We don't agree, actually. And I think this is mainly because the DA is super confident that it will get some sort of majority and it will get to govern the country. And other opposition parties really not being sure where they stand in terms of their constituency. I don't know, I don't think this will pass just because, you guys saw how the whole motion of no confidence went, so they won't get a majority actually. Since this is based on Section 50 of the Constitution, which says that the president may dissolve parliament if the National Assembly votes to that effect and if Parliament has been in effect for more than 3 years. So I don't think it'll get a majority, the DA, in order to do that. But in a hypothetical situation, hypothetically speaking, if it were to happen, it would be interesting because in the elections, I think there would be a coalition government, whether it's between the EFF and other political parties and the DA, or the EFF and other political parties and the ANC. That would sort of be like the thing to watch out for. But Parliament would be interesting because there would be no majority political party and you'd have everyone voting to their own to sort of solidify their own interests, and that would be very interesting. I think Parliament in that regard would not be stagnant. It would be very interesting. Juju also saying that actually, Section 46 subsection 1 of the Constitution suggests or implies that actually Parliament can be dissolved another way. The section says that no less than 350 and no more than 400 women and men must comprise to make the composition of Parliament. So the section doesn't actually explicitly say that if the number is less than 350, Parliament can be dissolved, but it sort of implies that. I think it sort of implies that, and this is what I absolutely love about the law, is that it's all about interpretation. So we can debate about it the whole day, but it will take someone to actually go to court and say, but justices of the Constitutional Court, what does the section actually mean? Does it imply that if 51, if there are 400 members of parliament right now, if 51 of them resign and there's like 349 left, does that mean that a parliament automatically dissolves? And that would be interesting to see how they would interpret it, just trying to get what the authors of the Constitution were trying to say when they drafted that. I support any means by the opposition to try and unseat Jacob Zuma because, he's just not been doing the right thing, obvious. But as long as it's legal, as long as it is legal. Anyways, no one actually has the guts to do what then General Bantu Holomisa did in 1987. So, let's just keep it very legal and, do the right things. Anyways, moving right along. Moody's, which is a credit rating agency, there was speculation that it would review us again in terms of our junk status. Yeah. So it didn't because there hasn't been actually any big events that would change our junk status. Yes. So I was really, really concerned, and I was really curious, like, who are these credit rating agencies and what authority do they have to make us always, just suck up to them like this? And so I found out that actually we have three major credit, well, they are, not we have, but they are, three credit rating agencies: Standard & Poor, Fitch, and Moody's. And of course, the majority of the shareholders are American. its authority kind of comes from the fact that it's been acknowledged by the SEC, which is the Securities and Exchange Commission, which is kind of like, think of like the National Credit Regulator or like the Financial Services Board. So it's kind of on that level. And you might have actually heard of the SEC if you watch Suits. That is, I remember at some point, might have been season 4 or 5, where the super blonde guy was like to her, "Well, the SEC is coming for you," and then he's like, "Okay, we'll see about that." And then of course, Jessica was like, "Take care of it," and then of course he took care of it. Yes. So that's the situation. That's where its the authority kind of comes from. And what they really do is that they assess the credit worthiness of organizations and institutions. In plain English, they try to find out, if you were to take out a loan, would you be able to pay it back? And according to Standard and Poor, how this is done, how they assess this whole situation, is that a committee of like 5 to 8 people sort of analyze different institutions and even countries, and based on some economic indicators, and find out if you are credit worthy or not. I don't know. The thing that kind of sort of bothers my soul about this whole situation is the ownership of these credit agencies. The fact that, they're owned by the likes of, the Hearst family, some French company somewhere, Berkshire Hathaway, that's Warren Buffett's company, Vanguard, JP Morgan has a stake in one of them. So you have all these investment companies who have a stake in these credit rating agencies. And it seems like in terms of rating their owners, they have a bias. They are biased. They're sort of for them, and they rate them favorably. So I don't know how. And by the way, I absolutely adore Warren Buffett. But I don't know, this is kind of dodgy, because if it's biased in terms of their owners, who is to say that they would be fair in terms of rating everyone else? How do we not know, they might just decide, no, we don't like you, we'll just you however we want. So I don't know, it bothers my soul, since their record is that they've been biased in terms of their owners, and then no, it's just not sitting right with my soul. It's not doing the right things. But anyways, moving right along. To international news, Uhuru Kenyatta has secured himself another term as the president of Kenya. The main opposition, the leader, Mr. Odinga, saying that actually, no, we do not accept these results. The elections are rigged. There's been voters fraud, and hell no. And so, Uhuru Kenyatta is a very interesting character, so to say. He is one of the people who have been indicted by the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity, murder, rape, and then later on the charges were dropped. And the chief prosecutor, Fidel Bensouda, saying that actually this guy and his government were intimidating and were harassing the witnesses. And that's why actually they couldn't prosecute him. And him sort of having this narrative against the leader of the opposition, Mr. Odinga, that he is a weapon used by the West through the ICC to assert their power. And so that's sort of been his narrative. He's a bit shady. You know what I mean? He's a bit shady. There's high corruption in Kenya, and it's highest since he's been president. Although technologically they've made some like amazing strides, but he is kind of a dodgy character. And initially, the international community, specifically the West, not being for him initially, and then later on turning around and being like, well, we don't like him very much, but he is helping us fight Al-Shabaab in Somalia, and, economically it's beneficial for us to befriend him. So yeah, I don't know. It's funny how the West flip-flops just to suit, their own interests. And during these elections, them sending their cronies, the European Union election observation mission coming over and saying, well, these elections were fair. John Kerry coming over, former state secretary of the US, saying, well, they were fair. So it's just odd to look at. It's odd once the West now saying we want to work with this guy and him working with them. Now all of a Sunday they just kind of sort of want to put a stamp of approval to say, these elections were fair, even though, the leader of the opposition is crying out and saying UN help, but the UN saying no, turn to your constitution and fix it that way. So I don't know. Actually, I do know. And yeah, I don't like it one bit. You know what I hope for? I hope that Africa grows to a point where we are not sucking up to the West, but we are strong enough to have them as allies because it's a choice, but not because we need to do that. So I'm hoping for that growth, and I'm praying for that growth. Anyways, I love you guys. Be awesome. Use your talents to serve humanity. And I will see you next week. Stay awesome.